Is that automatically gonna let everyone in from the waiting room?
It should.
All right. Yeah, we got some people filing in. All right. I'm gonna get it started because we've got a little bit of housekeeping, and I'm sure people will continue to join as I start talking here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse Zwick, and I'm the Southern California Director of the Housing Action Coalition, and I'm joined tonight by my colleague Victoria Gomez and my co-hosts Jed Leano at the Inner City Law Center and Zachary Pitts at YIMBY Los Angeles.
Bienvenidos a todos. Hoy les voy a explicar cómo usar la función de interpretación de idiomas en tiempo real dentro de Zoom Webinar. Esta herramienta les permite escuchar en español. Si desean escuchar la traducción al español, sigan estos pasos. Primeramente van a buscar la barra de herramientas en la parte inferior de la pantalla, aquí abajo. Hagan clic en el botón que dice Interpretation. Aparece como un icono de globo. Eso abrirá un menú con los idiomas disponibles. Nomás tenemos el idioma español ahorita. Um, Después puedes seleccionar el idioma y cambiar a silenciar el audio original o escucharlo de fondo con volumen reducido. So after these steps, you should be able to see the interpretation in Spanish or hear the interpretation in Spanish. We're glad you're here. And if you're here, you probably already know that housing is the defining challenge facing Los Angeles right now. Um, Rents have risen faster than wages in LA for decades, to the point where more than a third of residents spend over half of their income on housing each month. We have the largest unsheltered homeless population in the country. Young people cannot afford to stay in the neighborhoods where they grow up in, and working people are suffering long commutes because they can't afford to live near their jobs. Meanwhile, we're building fewer new homes than ever, even as our population grows and our needs deepen. This is not a natural disaster, it's a policy failure, decades in the making, and it will take a sustained political will to fix it. That's why we're here tonight hosting a forum for LA City Council District 9, who also has a lot of Spanish-speaking community, and that is why we're offering this in Spanish as well. The Housing Action Coalition is a nonprofit advocacy organization. Our members include over 175 orgs across California's housing ecosystem, affordable and market rate housing developers, general contractors, land use attorneys, architects, engineers, labor unions, and community groups. Our job is to push for the policies and the political leadership that will make it faster, easier, and cheaper to build the homes that Californians need. We operate across the state, and we've recently expanded to Southern California here in LA because the problem here is so acute. Tonight, we're proud to host the 6 candidates who have qualified for the ballot in
Wait
June.
one sec. So sorry. Let's let Jed jump in here.
Okay.
Thanks, Jesse. Let me just take a quick moment to thank Housing Action Coalition and their team for organizing tonight's event. Also, all the candidates and all the members of the public who have decided to join. I'm Jed Leano, Senior Policy Advisor at Inner City Law Center. We are the legal service provider centered in Skid Row. We are the legal organization and service provider who help people who are the poorest of the poor among Los Angeles's housing unstable. We are their lawyers, protecting them from eviction, trying to resolve their legal issues that stand in the way of them securing stable housing. We work on public policy, specifically in housing and land use, tenant protections, homelessness prevention, and homeless services. We are proud to be a co-moderator for tonight's event. And for more information about our mission and how to support our work, please go to innercitylaw.org. Do we have a representative from YIMBY Action, Jesse?
Not seeing them in the among the panelists. So thank you, YIMBY Action, for being a co-host of the event. And we'll just move right along. Um, so tonight, we're proud to host candidates who have qualified for the ballot in the June primary for City Council District 9. We have here tonight Jose Ugarte, Estuardo Mazariegos, Martha Sanchez, um, and Jorge Nuno, I believe, to answer some questions about where they stand on this complicated and critical issue. Here's how it will work. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, followed by roughly 10 questions with 1 minute per candidate per question. We'll close out with 1 minute closing statements, and we'll rotate who answers first so that no one goes first or last each time. We ask that the candidates keep to their time. We'll interject if needed, and to focus on policy, not personal attacks. That said, if your name is mentioned, you'll get 30 extra seconds to respond at the end of that round. Um, and with that, let's move into opening statements. We'll start in alphabetical order by last name with Estuardo Mazariegos, then Jorge Nuno, Elmer Rodan, Martha Sanchez, and Jose Ugarte.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Estuardo Mazariegos. I'm your candidate for CD9. Originally, I was born in Guatemala and migrated to Los Angeles in 1988. And I've been displaced multiple times in Los Angeles, from Hollywood to West Adams and Inglewood. I know the violence of evictions and tenant harassment. That's why I became an organizer and worker in South LA for the past 20 years to increase tenant protections, lower rents, pass the tenant anti-harassment ordinance, and increase relocation assistance and requirements when people are displaced. In South Central and CD9, most people have stories like mine of displacement due to redlining, and what was once here in our community was home to folks that were coming from the South, from the Jim Crow South. And now in South Los Angeles, we have a diaspora of folks from Central America, from Mexico, also, running from state-sanctioned violence and violence in general. Our neighborhoods are also, struggling daily on the cost of housing. CD9 has become home to some of the lowest income folks in the entire city, the highest rates of rent burden, the highest rates of overcrowding in the city. I'm running to fight for real affordable housing and tenant protection so working class people like myself have a place here in Los Angeles.
That's
Most recently, I fought. Thank you.
sorry. We're just for clarity, we're giving everybody 1 minute to give their opening remark.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go next to Jorge Nuno.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jorge Nuno. I was born and raised here in South Central Los Angeles. I attended schools here. I raised my family here. And for the last 2 decades, I've been building here. I have a small business here in South Central. I also have the big house as the community hub here in District 9. Running for 22 years of work in the community, I understand the needs of our community, not just promises. We need clean streets. We need safe and walkable communities and homes we can afford. My answer is simple: don't move, improve. Build more housing, protect renters, create real pathways to ownership, and make sure that families who build in District 9 stay in District 9. Tonight, I want to talk about how we can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank
Go.
you. Move on to Elmer Rodan. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elmer Roldan. I'm really happy to be here with you all. Running to represent the district where I was raised, where I raised my two sons. I grew up in poverty in South Central Los Angeles. My mom worked as a housekeeper. My dad was a hotel janitor. I grew up in a one-bedroom apartment with six other family members. As an immigrant from Guatemala who grew up undocumented in the 90s. I'm a proud graduate of LA Unified and Cal State Dominguez Hills. And I entered this race committed to delivering ethical leadership for this district that has been neglected for decades. We need to improve safety, cleanliness, but more importantly, we need to humanize the residents of Council District 9, particularly those in South Central Los Angeles. I'll be laser focused on building more affordable housing in my district, supporting local businesses that attract better paying jobs, especially for young people, because we are the youngest and poorest district in the city. So we desperately need these solutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martha Sanchez.
Good evening. My name is Marta Sanchez. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I teach in Los Angeles Mission College, not traditional and leadership classes. I'm a resilient wife, mother, and grandmother. I learned to take care of others when I was 12. My mom came to the United States, leaving me behind with my siblings that I raised as my own. I came to lead to South Central Los Angeles, and until this day, I share the same home with my two other brothers. I don't have any other opportunity to buy a home with the opportunities that other people have. And I'm running because I have seen the suffering of my people living in poverty and sharing lack of resources that really raise concerns. I have organized in this community for the last 25 years and so many issues, but housing is one of the top priorities that I have in my campaign. And I'm very happy to be part of the solution or being part of the problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Jose Ugarte.
Everybody, thank you guys for hosting this. My name is Jose Ugarte. I was born in Oaxaca, Mexico. I came here to South Central when I was 4 years old. I worked in the state assembly for a couple years under Speaker Anthony Rendon. We worked on legislation to pass the biggest water bond known to the state of California to bring clean water to South LA. We also banned lead ammunition in the state. And then I started working in the city of LA on housing issues, quality of life issues. I've been working here for about 12 years on and off. And right now, the turning point. For too long, we've made it difficult, too expensive, and too slow to build housing. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm running for office. We can protect tenants, we can expand opportunities, and bring down costs all at the same time to make it easier, more affordable. We need a pro-housing candidate that's going to bring us there. So thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you so much, everyone. And with that, we will jump right into things. I think actually, Jed, you're up.
Okay, we're gonna do the questions. We're gonna do the same order, but for this question, we will begin, I believe, with Estuardo. And so the question to kick us off is on the cost of housing. Nearly 40% of District 9 residents live below the federal poverty line, making it the poorest council district in Los Angeles. And our city's housing shortage means that many in CD9 struggle with housing insecurity and overcrowding. Specifically, how do you plan to build more homes and bring down the cost of housing in your district and across the city? And it's going to be 1 minute. And let's begin with Estuardo.
Yeah, I would expedite the production of public land to build thousands of new affordable housing units by implementing Measure ULA and Measure A. As an example, the Slauson and Wall site would be a huge development. It's an 8 acre site that hasn't moved for the past 12 years. Our current council representative has been in office and hasn't moved this. We keep hearing promises of results and keep not seeing any type of action. We need more than promises. We need leadership that will deliver. Citywide, I would fight to open up neighborhoods that have been fighting against affordable housing by affirmatively or furthering fair housing in the wealthiest areas, the high resource areas, and also work to develop workforce development along with partners at like LA Trade Tech and trade unions to ensure that we are able to fill those jobs to build that housing with folks in our community trained in the trades.
Thank you very much. Same question. We'll now go to Jorge.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, my
Yeah,
dad literally just
absolutely.
walked in right now, and I'm
It's no
like, "What, Dad?
problem.
I can't talk to you."
It's no problem. How do you plan to build more homes and bring down the cost of housing in your district and across the city?
Okay, thank you for that. One thing I was thinking about, I was really thinking about this question a lot. And what I want to do in my office is to build a development division where we could really work with anyone that wants to build in South Los Angeles, make sure we align on vision, on affordability, the amount of housing we need in our community. So to me is we need to be part at the table of making sure that we could get the best partners, if it's a nonprofit, developers, financing, that we could work in our office together. And I think to me is being very intentional that affordability, I understand that market rate housing is important, but we need more affordability. So for me is bringing the developers to the table and bringing all the resources of the city land, how we could utilize that land to make sure we could build more housing, public financing. I think what's important here is that we need to get more involved and eliminate a lot of the red tape in the city when processing permits. So efficiency to me
That's
is
time.
really what's important. Thank you.
Thank, thank you very much. And now we will move on to Elmer. Same question, please.
Yeah, we need to build more housing, period. Demand has outpaced production for decades in the city, and that has continued to drive up costs. We know that in South Central, people have experienced displacement. We need to transform empty lots. We also need innovative models. Community land trusts are a great example of that. We need to also think beyond the current models and bring in co-ops and pathways to home ownership where renters can have a stake in the properties that they pay on for decades. My mom has lived in the exact same apartment building for 40 years, but she has no ownership to that place, yet you can argue that she has helped pay off that building. So we definitely need deeper affordability. We need to escalate, Measure ULA, Measure A, and activate some of these recent passages of state laws that demand more construction, especially along transportation corridors, building density in a responsible manner that helps people achieve access to better quality housing without pushing displacement.
It's time.
Very much. Same question. Now to Mark.
Soy Marta. Okay. So I think that one of the good examples that we have in a project that I was involved like years ago in 2010, the crossing of 29th Street School. That particular housing project was stopped by the current administration because they didn't pay attention that redevelopment of industrial and commercial spaces is imperative in this community. We have a lot of neglected buildings that are doing nothing for the community. We can transport those spaces into housing. We have a lot of opportunities to put ourselves into the commission, the planning commission, the redevelopment agency to express our voices and concerns. It's not just saying this lot is good for this, is convincing the city, the LA County, the state that we have to have those resources to redevelop the community as it's supposed to be, not just industrial.
Thank you very much, Martha. And finally, Jose.
Mm-hmm.
We need to build more housing. We need to stream more housing immediately. We need to get our expediter system back for those projects that are. We also need to reform transfer taxes. We understood that that was a mistake. We have over 15 different departments that you have to go through right now to get entitlement projects. LEHD, WP, DBS. Going back to DWP, DWP needs to be reformed. They need to give us a timeline on when they're going to install a meter or put in lighting to your development. If you don't have that time, then you don't know if you're going to develop or not. You don't know if it's going to be developments right now take from 6 months to almost 2 years. That's ridiculous. You go anywhere outside LA County, outside the state of California, it can take weeks. And our entitlement process is slowed down. We need to reform it immediately. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next question. Most new apartments rent for more than the average resident of CD9 can afford to pay. As a result, some housing advocates support low-income housing but oppose new housing built by the free market. But researchers have found that people who move into new market rate housing vacate units in older, more affordable buildings, freeing up inventory and driving rents down overall. Does CD9 need more housing of all kinds, including a lot more market rate housing, or do we just need more low-income housing? Starting with Jorge Nuno.
Thank you for that question. I think we need to meet families where they're at. We need market rate, we need affordable housing, we need extreme affordable housing, we need co-ops, we need every possible model in this district. So we have different type of families. You know, my neighbor here, there's four families in one home. Like across the street, they're 1,800 for a one bedroom. So to me, it's meet families where they're at. Some people are ready to rent. Some people are ready to buy their first home. And I think we need to provide a suite of different options, and that's what I'm going to be for. Meet families where they're at, and I want to emphasize that my office will have a team to really dedicate on development. How do we bring more dollars in private sector from the foundation money to really get into housing? I think if we want to build wealth and family wealth and generational wealth, we need to think about housing, and I want to be in front of those conversations to meet everyone and where they're at. And I think that's gonna be the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elmer.
I do believe that we need to build housing at all income levels. Market rate housing does play a role in reducing the overall pressure on the housing market, but we can't rely on what is known as filtering alone. It takes decades, especially in places like South Central Los Angeles, for that to trickle down to families that can actually afford those new units. I think on paper it makes sense. In practice, rather than dropping the cost of older apartments, some landlords actually charge the same amounts for older units in communities like mine. So that means that poor people are paying more money for older units. So it doesn't always pan out. We do need a dual strategy of increasing production while also investing in preservation and acquisition that is both stabilizing. We've experienced gentrification across Los Angeles. USC is a good example of it. They continue to take up land that were community built lived before, so we have to change that.
See, you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you. Martha.
Thank you. I don't want to repeat what has been said, but I want to emphasize the fact that in this community, we have to provide different options to different people. There is land trust taking place. There is preservation planning, homeless prevention programs, social housing that is going on. The projects are going on. The transitional housing is going on. The emergency shelters are overdue. The Section A is also a very strong possibility for people that have no other means to survive. There is re-entry programs taking place right now. There is so many options that we have to redevelop and bring to different and diverse community members, that we can only focus on one single development. It is not that one shoe fits all. We have to provide services, programs, and opportunities to this diverse community. And the most important thing is to listen what the community needs, because building just to build just to build is not a smart building. It's just like condemning people to be disconnected and not being in our harmony with the development that is taking place. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
We need all types of housing, 100% with the focus on affordable housing. But we got to start with affordable housing and then work our way up. Student housing, veterans housing, senior housing, workforce housing, and market rate housing. If someone wants to live in a skyrise in downtown LA, let them live in a skyrise. Someone wants to own a single family home, let them live in a single family home. But we need all types of housing.
Thank you, Estuardo.
Yeah, in my district, half the household's income is about $50,000. I want to stop for a second right here and really emphasize that half of households in CD9, which are mostly larger families, make less than $50,000 a year. That means half of all families can't afford rents more than $1,250 per month. The average rent in the city is over twice that. I'm skeptical that we can increase production of market rate housing so much that we reduce rents by half, which again is what the majority of households in CD9 would need. That is why I support building affordable housing and preserving naturally occurring housing in our community through land trusts, which I've worked for in the past, and alternative models of housing, which I've advocated through ULA. We do not need housing for all incomes levels, and I would not necessarily block or obstruct market rate housing, but a market-based housing approach can simply not deliver for what most people in my district need. I do support mixed income housing in higher resource areas in the city in order to reduce some of the displacement pressure in our communities and create more equitable housing opportunities citywide.
Thank you.
Thank you all for that. Our third question is going to be about affirmatively furthering fair housing. AFFH is a legal requirement under the 1968 Fair Housing Act. Later became codified by state statute, and it says that cities must proactively combat housing discrimination, overcome segregation, and promote inclusive communities. It requires taking meaningful actions beyond just not discriminating to address disparities in housing access for protected groups. Do you support reforming land use policies that restrict housing diversity, such as allowing multi-unit buildings in single-family neighborhoods, to ensure that LA lives up to its legal and moral obligations under AFFH? And additionally, will you support low-income and homeless housing projects in District 9? We will start this time with Elmer.
Yes, I support that. And I think this is another example of a law that on paper it's amazing and it hasn't arrived in South Central. We live at the perfect intersection of all the deserts that this law was intended to address. Redlining has prevented development, it has prevented retail, it has prevented banking from coming here to South Central Los Angeles. So we absolutely need to be surgical about the way that we implement AFFH and increase opportunity across Los Angeles by including building more housing in high resource areas. It also means that we have to be mindful about how these developments can contribute to displacing residents who need to stay housed here in communities like mine. So equity isn't just about where we build, it's about whether communities can stay and benefit from these developments.
That's time.
Thank you very much, Martha.
I want to go back to Gilbert Lindsay time when he allows the destruction of affordable units of single-family homes to bring industrial and commercial facilities in this community. Because of that rezoning, we have lost a lot of opportunities to keep families together. And now we have the consequences of having those empty buildings really, really in bad shape, like polluting and doing really bad opportunities for people. If we retake the land, if we rezone the land from commercial and industrial, and we rebuild the community as a community residential space, we can survive the struggles from past decisions. So I, of course, support rezoning and bringing more diversity to this community.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Jose.
I support the goals absolutely since 1968. But like Elmer said, it has not been implemented correctly. So we need to either slow down the layers that the process that's delaying, but we need to expedite it immediately. But the goals are there. We want more housing in Black and brown communities in South LA, but it hasn't been done right because we don't have enough housing here.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Estuardo.
Yeah, I'm the only candidate here that engaged during the CHIP process, the City Housing Incentive Program. I was actually part of the decision-making and policy conversation while we were talking about upzoning and looking at different parts of the city to increase housing. And I was one of those folks that was arguing to bust up that segregationist policy that created pockets of concentrated racialized poverty. I'm here to say that I will fight to ensure that we build housing in areas that have tried to exclude Black and brown working class people in Los Angeles. And look, in CD9, we do our fair share already. It's only about 5% of the land in CD5 and CD9 that's actually zoned for single family, and most of that is already tenant. It's already renter. When we have in other areas, 82% is already zoned for single family. So we need to ensure that we're breaking that up. We get in there and we bring in folks from our communities that want to be a part of communities that are high resource.
Thank you very much. And finally, we'll hear from Jorge.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of what's being said. And I think when we think of equity, kind of like what Elmer said, we need to be not only build more, but also ownership access. So for me, it's really expanding the diversity in the way we build in South Los Angeles. So I'm 100% about upzoning and diversifying our housing in our community. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next question is about Measure ULA. Measure ULA was marketed to voters as a mansion tax, but is a tax on all high-value real estate transactions, including apartment buildings. That was enacted in 2022. It has raised significant revenue for affordable housing and tenant assistance, but studies from UCLA, RAND, USC, Harvard, and others all show that it has significantly reduced the construction of new apartment buildings in Los Angeles, reducing permitting by as much as 50% compared to other cities across LA County, and even presenting more affordable housing built through those mixed income projects than it has been able to fund, but through taxing those new housing projects. To fix this, some have proposed exempting new buildings from paying the tax for the first 15 to 20 years after they are built. Would you keep the law as it is, repeal it, or reform it? And if reform, what specifically should that look like? Starting with Martha.
I still have to analyze the good consequence of repealing laws that are placed to solve problems. I would like to go back to the community and analyze the possibilities to get the benefits, because when we reform things, it doesn't necessarily means that we are going to get the benefit. We constantly push solutions that only apply to other communities, and we are always left behind from the formula. I would like to get more input from the community, because when we talk about increasing, the size of the buildings and single family residential places, it means that they're not going to have enough parking spaces. It means that they're not going to be able to live in those spaces. It means that they're going to compete with new people with no historical background, and the architectural design of those buildings doesn't belong to the community. And it is not just like preserving the historical character, is like destroying the historical character of this community.
Hi, Martha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jose?
Reform, absolutely. I worked on it. I'm guilty. I supported ULA, got signatures for it, organized people to get signatures for it. Nobody had any idea that what it was going to do. It didn't just stop the housing development of in LA, but also had unintended consequences where the anti-tax people now have all these measures on the ballot. They want to do a moratorium on transfer taxes forever. They want to get rid of our gross sales tax. It's going to kill the city. So there's really unintended consequences where we messed up. We should have somehow worked it out, but now we're dealing with it. So absolutely reform it. Yeah, I agree that we have to expand it either for a bigger amount, more than $5 million, and give them at least 10 to 20 years to be able to pay it back. So yes.
Thank you. Estuardo.
Yeah, look, in a time when the federal government is attacking our communities right now and cutting back on federal spending on housing, ULA is a lifeline that supports affordable housing production, preservation, and homelessness prevention. The city literally just awarded a $300 million to support the production and investment of 5,200 units, including 338 units in CD9. ULA has also provided rental assistance for over 300 households in CD9, a lot of which I've been personally involved in, making sure that people get the money. And I've seen ULA actually work. I was one of the few folks here fighting for it to be implemented the right way, fighting for Tahoe implementation the right way. Look, if we are talking about what's on the table right now, the current proposal of 15-year exemption, there's a couple dealerships that were sold in CD9 for about $150 million. We would get $8 million if ULA was in place when that was sold. Currently, with this proposal, we would get nothing. Tell me how that works. Tell me how we would build more affordable housing in CD9 without ULA money.
Thank you. Jorge Nuno.
Yeah, I think ULA needs to be reformed. I think like some of the conversations we're having, talking about how the threshold 5 million, maybe we need to increase it or create some kind of scale. If it's going to be a true matching tax, I think we need to really define that a little better. And I think, transparency, I want to make sure that those dollars that we're making on UTLA are coming to South Los Angeles District 9. So I want to see more transparency and access to those dollars as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Elmer.
Look, Metro ULA is delivering real results. The city just announced $360 million to build affordable housing. There's another $600 million that we need to unlock from potential litigation. and administrative delays. This is helping people stay housed. It's helping people, preventing them from ending up homeless. So there are legitimate concerns that have been elevated about the impact of Measure ULA, and I do think we need to explore what that means. We have to take it seriously, but it's not the moment to walk away from ULA and its intended outcome. I'm open to making the necessary improvements, but not if it's going to compromise progress in our city. My approach would be to protect what is working. We need more eviction defense, we need rental assistance, and we need more affordable housing funding in the city.
Thank you all very much. Our next question will be about the rent stabilization ordinance. The city council voted last year to significantly lower the cap on rent increases for rent stabilized apartments from a range of 3 to 8% annually to a range of 1 to 4%. Annual rent increases are now limited to 90% of the consumer price index, also called CPI. A 1 to 2% pass through charge for utilities was eliminated, and rent increases for additional dependents are no longer permitted. Would you have voted yes or no on the proposal? And please explain your answer. And we're going to start on this one with Jose.
I voted yes on it. I think it was fair. Just to add on that, I wish the county would adapt something similar. Our district abuts several cities from the city of Vernon, city of Huntington Park, city of Southgate, city of Linwood. And those cities need to be on par with the city of LA because a lot of people are developing those cities and not in the city of LA. So we want to make sure that it has a county-wide or so rent increase cap.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go to Estuardo.
Yeah, I personally worked on the RSO. I was one of the frontline organizers on this, yet again, on as many of these issues. I built a coalition of tenants, of unions, of advocates to ensure that we get this hard-fought win. It took multiple years, and just a couple years ago, this wouldn't have been fathomable. But let me tell you, the tenants and the folks in this city fought really hard to ensure that we lowered the rent for over 600,000 units here in the city of Los Angeles. And this means a physical, material change of wealth into the pockets of our folks. We're talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars over decades. I want to ensure that not only do we expand on RSO, that we have an honest conversation here in the city of Los Angeles of how do we get RSO to non-RSO units by building a coalition with statewide folks to ensure that we start questioning things like Costa Hawkins. We need to build the coalition just like we did here in Los Angeles to pass the RSO reform. We need to talk about it at the statewide level so that way we could put a dent on the affordability crisis in California.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Jorge.
Yes, I actually voted for this, and I was really supportive. Matter of fact, my print shop did a lot of the printing for the signage for a lot of the movement work. And again, we need to look at the state. I mean, as we do working on local, we need to work on the state on Hawkins. We need to really revisit that law so we could make more affordability. So yeah, I'm glad with this win. That was a lifeline to a lot of the residents in our community. You know, rents were going high just because, people were, jacking it up 10%. So I'm glad we won that win. A lot of us at the table here are all supportive of that too. So thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. Next, we'll hear from Elmer.
Look, as long as we keep paying people poverty wages, rent stabilization is going to continue to be a lifeline for our families. It keeps families housed. We're at an inflection point in our city where families just can't continue to survive on these meager wages that we continue to pay folks. And so we know that keeping people housed continues to be far less expensive than if we displace or push people onto the street. So we need to continue to build housing so that this tug of war doesn't persist, but the right approach is balance. We need to continue to protect tenants, increasing the supply, preserving affordability. And as it stands, yes, I would have voted for rent stabilization. And I do believe that we need to do more to help families stay housed.
Thank you very much. Finally, we'll hear from Martha.
I would provide similar response to what has been said already. I think that's a good move to restore fairness into the hardworking families. I don't see more solutions than repealing Costa Hackings, as Stuardo said, by being involved as well, and all those measures from so many years, like trying to bring more common sense to policymakers. And without these measures, I can't imagine how many families will be living on the street, will be buying cars or motorhomes, populating on the streets. So I can't imagine how many people will be living in the parks, because this measure is really, really needed. But we need to do more, and we got to go beyond this measure. Local measures don't really solve all the problems, but it's just a tiny, tiny step forward to bringing solutions. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next question. Bear with me. It's a little bit long. Getting a permit to build is a very long and uncertain process in the city of LA. For instance, a neighbor or any neighbor or interest group can appeal an approved housing project for the fee of $229, which represents about 1% of the cost of the $22,800 it actually costs the city to process that appeal. Taxpayers cover the other 99%. Last year, the city administrative officer recommended ending this subsidy and requiring full cost recovery for all appellants. The city council rejected that proposal. Would you direct the city to end this taxpayer subsidy for interest groups seeking to stop new housing? If no, why not? And additionally, would you support a simple administrative approval process for all zoning compliant housing projects, taking the discretion and delays from planning commission and city council completely out of the approval process? And if no, why not? Starting with Estuardo. Muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I support more by right pathways for 100% affordable housing projects and for mixed income housing projects in areas that adhere to affordable housing replacement requirements. Tenant protections provide affordable units, and for tenant protections to provide affordable units on site. I led the effort to enact. I actually wrote part of the policy for the RPO, the Resident Protection Ordinance, that requires all projects to replace existing affordable housing, and giving tenants the right to return and a higher relocation requirement. So I want to ensure that we are doing the right thing by the most vulnerable people as we streamline this process for affordable housing development. It needs to be equitably done. It needs to be done in a way that really does not blow by the folks that are going to be most impacted. As a council member, I would encourage to help facilitate more community engagement between developers and future residents of our community.
Anything to the first part of that question? Sorry, on the appeals process.
I think we need to make sure that the appeals process is adhered to and that we have as many points as possible to have the community folks engaged in that process.
All right. Jorge Nuno.
Thank you for that. Obviously, we need to streamline the approval process. I think if the project meets the rules, I think it should move forward by right. For me, I've went through an experience recently where it took me 5 years to get my retrofitting of my house approved. So I think the bureaucracy we need to address. We need to make sure things are streamlined across, and especially when we do affordable housing or multi-family use housing. I think we need to expedite and move forward. And as far as the appeal, I'm agree with Estuardo that we need to have a more of a input from the community of how we deal with that appeal. So that's my take on it.
Thank you, Elmer.
I think in general, I would push to reduce the delays. This one is tricky because it depends on why people are trying to block the development. Is it racist folks that are preventing housing from being built because they don't want more density of low-income folks coming to their neighborhood, or is it a community pushing against something that's going to harm the community and push for gentrification? So we know that we need to stop delays. Long timelines increase the cost of production. They also slow down the production. So I do support streamlining, One approach that I would welcome is doing an overlay zone. So instead of approving one project at a time, promoting an overlay so that we have density incentives in targeted areas, especially near transit. So if a project benefits from increased density and streamlining approvals, we should absolutely support those projects and make sure that they're delivering back to the community.
Thank you. Um, Lost my place and who's normally in line. Do you all remember who goes next? Is that Jose? Martha. Martha, I think.
Yes, thank you. I do also agree that not just because people complain about a project, it means that it's going to be a bad project. Sometimes the interested piece is that this particular development is going to destroy something that is truly valuable for the community members. Sometimes this project is not addressing the parking spaces that is required. Sometimes they're going to destroy some specific places that will bring some kind of cohesion on the community residents as well. So it's like analyzing the appeal and trying to figure it out if the development is really meeting the requirements to proceed with the permits. And also it's like there's so many opportunities to analyze the project before going into approval, that we can make sure that there is truly community involvement in the very beginning, in the first phases, before bringing it to the conclusion and then coming back to a stage where we can even complain about it, or when we can even bring more studies to prove that the
Thank you.
complaining party is holding
Time.
right. Okay.
Thank you, Martha. Jose.
The appeals process needs to be reformed. I think it's really way too cheap. The city is in $1 billion budget deficit right now. We can't afford to cover the cost on that sort of stuff, and I think it's like 300, a little under $300. It needs to be some a percentage of what it is. We also have a lot of appeals process already. Neighborhood councils can appeal. We have different departments that can appeal. We have commissions that are people can go to the commission and appeal projects. So there's a bunch of layers. So definitely needs to have some sort of reform. And then what was the second question, Jesse?
It was around whether you'd support an administrative process for all zoning compliant housing projects, where the city council did not weigh in.
Absolutely. If
Well,
it's affordable, 100% affordable housing, should be streamlined immediately. We used to have an expediter project. I worked in the city for 13 years, and whenever it was a very important project, an expediter would get assigned to it, and they would streamline the whole process. A process normally takes a year, can be done in months, and that was canceled. I don't know if it was with budget cuts, but that needs to be brought back.
thank you.
So yes, thank you.
Thank you all very much. The next question is about Housing First policies. Housing First, the longstanding policy consensus that offering housing as quickly as possible and without conditions to people experiencing homelessness is the most effective path to improving their health and reducing harmful behaviors. That policy is coming under fire from the current federal administration. Trump's HUD Secretary Scott Turner claims that it doesn't work and has pushed to defund permanent supportive housing programs across the nation, advocating instead for temporary housing programs that require participants to abide by certain conditions. Is the Trump administration right or wrong? And explain your position on Housing First. And let's please now begin with Jorge.
I support housing first. I think, we all need housing immediately. I mean, temporary housing doesn't work. I was walking on Broadway a few days ago, talking to a couple of unhoused folks, and again, they were in a hotel for 3 weeks, and something happened that they didn't follow a certain rule. They're out again. So for me, we need to figure out a way to do long-term housing first, and that's my stand. We need to provide also be transparency of all the service providers that are helping with this process, making sure people are being housed, how long they staying. And I think there's a lot of tweaking that has to go in the housing policies that doesn't just kick people out for small rules. If you can't bring a friend over, there's a lot of details that I was learning from some of the houses community that They just think we got to make some changes. So for me, housing first is 100% all the time. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Let's move on now to Elmer.
I yeah, I think everything the Trump administration does is wrong. So housing first, absolutely is the answer. People need stability before anything else. We also know it takes homeless folks anywhere between 6 to 18 months to get back on their feet. And trauma doesn't end the moment that we move someone from the street into a new apartment. And so we need to continue to support folks until they are stabilized. I also believe in mandating treatment for folks, especially those who are dealing with mental health issues or drug addiction. We know it's tough. We know that we want to give people their rights and we want to protect them as human beings. And we also have to ensure that folks have the right levels of support so that the investments that we are making and putting people into apartments can pay off in the long run. So we need to ensure that people stay housed to begin with, and once we move them into a unit, to do everything to keep them in there for as long as possible.
Thank you very much. Next is Martha.
I, as a mental health provider, I'm a stronger supporter of prevention programs. I know that when you force people to move into a mental health professional to talk just because they were forced is not going to work. But when you address the basic needs like housing, food, providing good shelter, and I'm talking about housing for health, some people really, really have to be safe and feel that people care about them before accepting any other form of support. So we can't force people to go find a job to get training if they are not feeling adequate in their minds. So prevention is a plus and it's a mandatory thing first before taking them to the mental health professional. So I believe that housing will solve a lot of problems and will prevent more issues to happen when we address those problems in the very beginning.
Thank you very much. Next is Jose.
Housing is a human right. It should always be housing first. Um, I've taken tours of housing places that got built for homelessness, and a lot of them are empty. That's a problem. We built these housing complexes, which always should come first, but we didn't have the wraparound services to go with it. Right now, 80% of Prop HH and Prop HH gets used for housing. I think we need to be a little bit more for mental health. I think the pendulum needs to turn a little bit for mental health because a lot of these apartments are now empty. People are not coming back. So we need to have some sort of service providers that come in and provide the mental health. Well, housing is always first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Estuardo.
Yeah, housing is a human right. I've been on the front lines, door knocking every day, and I see how folks are caught up in between paying for rent or paying for food, being one struggle away from ending up on the street. A lot of the folks that we're seeing in our streets right now are working people, everyday people that are struggling to actually get housing. The wraparound services, we need to have an emergency response team that's out there every day building relationships with folks, identifying what the needs are, and not mandating healthcare, mental health care, not mandating substance abuse care, but actually building the type of relationships, identifying what the needs are, and getting those folks into the type of housing that would serve them. We need to be able to treat humanity with human decency and ensure that our neighbors see themselves as humans and that we treat them as humans, that we provide the services that they need to be able to connect them to the services that they need, to be able to build those relationships and treat them like the neighbors. Look, across the street from me, there's a person living in an RV right now. Those folks deserve every bit of help that they can to go from an RV to a stable home. So housing is a human right, and we need to be able to identify what the needs are.
Thank you. This next question is about a state law called SB 79, which requires cities across California to allow taller, denser housing near transit stops in order to improve affordability and promote transit ridership and sustainability. A majority of the LA City Council voted recently first to oppose SB 79 when it was in the state legislature, and now today have voted to delay its implementation as much as possible, wherever possible. Did you support or oppose SB 79, and do you believe it should be implemented, and how do you believe it should be implemented across the city now that it is law? Starting with Elmer Rodan.
I do support SB 79. I do know that the city council is proposing to delay implementation until 2030 to study it. Nothing kills good promise like the government studying issues. We know that we need to build housing near transit. It's critical that it's affordable and that it's quality. The city has also invested in building these ugly boxes, especially in poor communities. So it doesn't only have to be affordable; it has to be quality, so that people can receive housing that is humane and a good place that folks can live in. So we have to ensure that transit-oriented development benefits existing residents, that it doesn't contribute to displacement. And it means pairing density with, multi-use benefits so that we can also support small businesses in the community, prioritizing density and affordability.
Thank you. Martha?
Yeah, I'm one key proponent of not building just to build, not disrespecting the community character, the historical character, and the architectural design, just by bringing homes to families that are not going to be able to pay or afford to live in those spaces, but also bringing the opportunity to have other amenities like other transit-oriented development that have commercial, retail stores, or even schools down the bottom of the building, and then on the top we have like housing, decent housing for real people with diverse services and programs. I think that some specific places are going to get benefit from those specific projects in comparison with other parts of the city, specifically in City 9 district that are just building to build. Thank you so much for allowing this project, but it's not working at all. Thank you. Bye. But building, I call two boxes is not the solution. We have to respect and we have to include community residents in that process.
Thank you. Jose?
I support SB 79. I'm a big supporter of it. I need it to be implemented soon because I want to build more transit corridors. Our district, CD9, has the least amount of transit corridors in the entire city of LA. So SB 79 as it is wouldn't really affect us much because we can't build anywhere. But I want to build a train across Slauson from the LA River, which is City of Maywood, all the way to Venice Beach. It's going to cross our district in half down Slauson. I want housing all around that transit corridor. I don't want people in cars anymore. Our district gets cut in half by the 110 freeway. We have the highest asthma rates in the entire city of LA, all around the freeway, the 110. So cars is an issue, and building SB 79, building without cars, without parking spaces is okay. Around transit, people can go outside, take a train, go to the beach, go to work, go to school. But SB 79 needs to be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Estuardo?
Yeah, I support the council action to defer SB 79 and lower resource areas, and I would like to see more housing capacity in the rest of the city. And I supported option 3 for a local rezoning option. That was before council. We do have several transit corridors, and SB 79 may eventually be implemented in CD9 in the New Vermont BRT area, the Silver Line, the Blue Line. And before that happens, I want to make sure that we study the overall impact of what SB 79 would do to a low-income community. We want to prevent displacement. We want to ensure that we have people density. And we want to have greater support for low-income homeowners so that way we don't displace our homeowners. And there's predatory practices that occur around a lot of these folks where investors come in and try to buy land cash at very low market rate when the zoning's already gone up. Let me tell you, I've worked together with South LA, with a lot of folks in South LA for the South LA CPIO to ensure that we have more protections around these type of developments.
Thank you. Jorge?
Yeah, I am supportive of SB 79. But I think like we are asking the right questions is that are we building it for the people in our community? Is it affordable? Who's benefiting? Also local I want to make sure even local contractors get access to building. But again, how does this benefit our community? I think I want to make sure we have enough guardrails in this rollout that we are protecting our residents from displacement. We are protecting and giving our community even access to a rent to buy or lease to buy. I really want to focus on smart development and progressive development so that we could benefit from this development coming down the pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Jesse, that was everybody, right?
That was.
Thank you very much. The next question is on single stair development. Cities across the United States are innovating with state and local building codes to bring down the cost of construction. And one of the most popular reforms that's been adopted in Austin, Memphis, and even nearby cities like Culver City that would allow multifamily buildings up 6 stories to be served by a single staircase instead of two. Advocates point out that it leads to more affordable, livable, family sized apartments and has been practiced safely for decades in Seattle, New York, and most of Europe and Asia. Local firefighters have nonetheless raised the alarm about possible safety issues. Do you support modifying LA's building code to allow single stair buildings up to 6 stories, despite the objections uh, mentioned previously? And for this, we will begin with Martha.
I would support something like that if we wouldn't have any space to build. But when you have enough space, I think safety comes first in all senses. We can play with people's safety just because we want to maximize the developer profits. I think that we have to make sure that everything that is built is high quality materials. They follow the most basic safety measures. And I want to make sure that if we are not funding city resources, how we're going to solve a problem when something happens. We are not providing funding for fire departments. We're not providing funding for public services. How we're going to allow developers to oversee or overcome or not really address safety measures when we don't have the specific services that we need to protect people. So safety always come first for community residents in my side.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Jose.
I support single stair reform. I think it's antiquated. With all the new technology we have to fight fires, to get people up and down stairs safely, I think we need to support it. Just another hurdle we have to do in the city of LA.
Very much. And next, Estuardo.
Yeah, I think it's a balanced approach. We have to look at each case by each building case by case in terms of the single uh s- the single stairs. Feel like, there might be a situation where it does make sense. It might be a situation where it doesn't make sense and you need multiple stairs. But I really do feel like this is one of those places that, being able to really truly understand what the issues are with the single stairs and like say particularly if you have, for instance, I've been door knocking in neighborhoods where there's a building with over 100 units of affordable housing with one single stair. It just wouldn't work out. You have so many different families coming in and out of that building. So, but and then there's other instances where it does make sense and it's planned that way. So I think it's just a case by case study and definitely making sure that, we play it by ear. So that way we don't have a cookie cutter model that might not fit certain situations.
Thank you very much. Next is Jorge.
Yeah, I agree. We have to, safety first, and I think we go case by case. And again, if it's safe and if the insurance company going to also cover it, let's go. A lot of times the insurance going to play a role in that. So I think as long as we cross our T's and dot our I's and it's safe, I think we should move forward projects. But every building has their own challenges. So I'm open to flexibility, but I think we should reform it. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Elmer.
Yeah, I think we need to trust the experts on this one as well. If it can safely reduce the cost of construction, then we should definitely explore it. We have more modern fire safety systems today than when this was first implemented. But the key question that we have to ask is who benefits from these savings? We know that at mass scale, it can create a building that is cheaper, but we should also apply those savings to more affordable housing, more community serving programs, so that the savings aren't translating to only higher margins for developers, but they're actually being implemented to benefit the community through CBAs, walkable paths, and other developments that the city is desperate and residents are desperate for when we build these new complexes.
Thank you. We're getting near the end here. Last question before we move to closing statements. LA City Council members have historically had informal veto power over projects in their districts, even when those projects meet state and local law. Do you commit to not exercising that kind of veto in your district over any housing project that comes forward? And do you also support, and will you also support housing in other districts, even when your fellow council members might oppose them? Starting with Jose.
I don't commit to it. I think that every project needs to be um, oversaw, needs we have community meetings about it. Simple stuff. It goes through commissions. But projects need to be expedited. I commit to that. Absolutely.
Thank you, Estuardo.
Yeah, for far too long, city council, there's a culture of not overstepping your own bounds, which has resulted in affordable housing projects that have already been planned, that already have money to be stopped. I look at things like Venice Dale, which is a huge problem. I mean, we're talking about a project that already had tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in place already that has been stalled because wealthy communities don't want more affordable housing, black and brown working class folks, folks in CD9 to live next to them. It's simply not acceptable. I think that we really need to change that culture, and it's something on the unwritten rules that we really need to examine and break through.
Thank you, Jorge. Muted.
Yeah, I'm committed not doing any vetoes on projects. I think if we go through the process and it goes through the whole democratic process, I think it should go push through. And issues will be get raised on in the surface with if it's through the neighborhood council or through public input. I think I'm going to be supportive with that, and we need to move. We need to move on projects. So we can't have any more delays. We need to build, and we need to do it responsibly and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you, Elmer.
Yeah, similarly, I think it depends on who the council member is. If we have a council member that's a gentrifier or bought by developers, the district is in trouble. We need a consistent and transparent system that works across LA. At the same time, we know that residents matter. We need to engage community in a responsible manner before, during, and after developments come here so that the community has a right to determine what is happening in their own backyards. The goal is always balance. We want to have predictable rules. We need faster approvals and meaningful community input without us compromising our own power as council members. People elect us to make sound decisions. And that's why we need someone who's going to take on a balanced approach to ensure that we're always thinking about the community while also moving the district forward.
Thank you, Martha.
I'm going to dig a little bit more on the position because the fact that the project really meets the state and local standards or is like being proposed under the law, it doesn't mean that it's going to bring benefit for community residents. It doesn't mean that it's going to meet the standards or the high quality life that community residents wants. I'm running for the people. I want to represent the people's voices. I'm not going to represent my own benefit, my own profit. And I'm not for developers. It's clear. The people in that community have the voice, and they have expressed concerns about bringing more development that is not meeting their own requirements. So I want to work with, as was mentioned, with the community residents, the neighborhood council, all the stakeholders, just to figure it out what works better, and if that specific project only meets the wallet from the developer instead of like meeting the city and state laws or really addressing the community
Thank you.
needs.
Thank you, Martha. Okay, we're gonna close like we started, but we'll go in the reverse order with closing statements. So that means starting with Jose Ugarte.
Hey, LA needs to move to a pro-housing framework. So far, our district, like I said, we abut different cities. We abut City of Vernon, City of Huntington Park, City of Southgate, City. I can go on. The Southeast has been growing over and over again. You look at Glendale, you look at Burbank, you look at West Hollywood, look at Culver City. Those cities have adopted a pro-housing framework, and we're losing behind. My district is losing behind. We got to make sure that we don't displace anybody. We got to make sure we bring in more housing as a whole with prevailing wages, with everything that comes with good paying jobs. and I'm the one to do it. I've done it before. I'm working on certain projects in the city council. We've passed good framework, and I want to continue doing that. So thank you, everybody. My name is Jose Ugarte. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you. Then Martha.
So I just want to stress the fact that I see people tired, I see people broken, traumatized, and emotionally exhausted every time that I go out of the community to canvassing. I'm following my inner voice, I'm following their advices, and I'm telling people that we still have the power to make the change that we want to see. I'm running to serve my people with a purpose. This is our land. This is our fight. I want to amplify their voices because I'm one of those community residents struggling to survive. I want to listen. I want to resolve. I might not know all the answers, but I know people that can solve those problems. And I know people that are really entitled and committed to make the change. So I want to serve the community, and I want to keep delivering results even before being elected and way beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. Elmer Roldan.
Yeah, this conversation is important because the choice is not between building more housing and protecting our communities. We have to do both. We also can't be dogmatic. We can't sell our power to developers and to big interests. We need someone who is from this community and who is for this community, and I am that candidate. We have to continue to build at scale while also protecting tenants and ensuring that we have long-term affordability here in our district, because the South LA can't continue to be put as a it can't continue to suffer inaction in our district. Residents are tired of homelessness and the byproduct of homeless encampments, and our houseless neighbors can't wait any longer for the city in action. And so we need faster results. We need someone who is going to drive those results. And I welcome your support in making that happen.
Thank you so much, Jorge Nuno.
Thank you. I know your audience is a lot of developers, contractors, and what we want to do in District 9 is build more, but do it equitable and responsibly. When I'm walking on canvassing, there's double parking all throughout the streets because there's multiple families in each home. You have RVs parked in illegal areas, and because again, housing's an issue. So for me is let's meet everyone where they're at. Let's build, build, build. Let's do it equitable. In the same time, like I mentioned earlier, what's really important in my office, I'm going to have my own development team. So we could partner with developers, partner with nonprofits, and also give our community an opportunity to invest in the changes that are coming. So I also want them to be invested in the development. So I want to create really innovative models to really bring more resources to the table and actually reach out to philanthropy and foundations to get involved in housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Estuardo.
Yeah, I fought for affordability in multiple different ways in the Ninth City District. I've been one of the big proponents for increasing the minimum wage for tourism workers in Los Angeles. I was one of the main organizers for LARSO, the LA Rent Stabilization Ordinance. I was a big organizer when it came to the City Housing Incentive Program and making sure that it has the RPO, the Resident Protection Ordinance. The line goes down, and I want to make sure that the people in the Ninth City District actually have a place in the city of Los Angeles. When the city of Los Angeles works for the people in South Central, we're talking about the folks that build the city, cook for the city, take care of the city's children, clean the city. When the city works for those folks, it works for everybody. And that means affirmatively furthering fair housing in areas that have segregated our folks. That means breaking through the curse of segregation in the Ninth City District by bringing in communities and people that will mix up and create an area that has an opportunity to ensure that we have resources in our neighborhood. Ultimately, I want to see a Ninth City District that's represented by somebody from here too.
Well, thank you to all our candidates for joining us tonight and for your commitment to public service. And thank you to everyone who took the time to come out and learn about the candidates' positions on these all important issue. We've had close to 100 participants for most of this call, and I think it's a testimony to how much this issue matters. If you want to learn more about how to build more homes and lower rents in Los Angeles, we encourage you to get involved. Join and follow the Housing Action Coalition, YIMBY Los Angeles, and the Inner City Law Center. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and have a good night. Thank you.